Hello all, this is Dr. Dave Maslach talking to you about reciprocity.com. The E is written with a 3, and in this particular video I'm going to talk about when do you actually hear back from PhD programs and graduate school programs, and when do they actually start in terms of these particular programs, right? So for those of you who are thinking about applying to graduate school and PhD programs around the world, this is kind of the general thing that happens in most Western universities. I'm not talking, I went to the University of Western Ontario and they call it Western University now. What this is, you know, what I'm talking about is like all the schools in North America and as well as the ones that are in Europe. And some of the ones that are sort of using the same sort of model around the world in different areas, right? So if you don't know me, I'm a professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There were so many people that helped me out during graduate school that I wanted to create something that was a little bit bigger than me. So I started doing all of this kind of stuff, right? I created this sort of sharing economy proofreading or, peer feedback kind of software, and now I am doing these YouTube videos to be as helpful for you. So when do you actually hear back from graduate school programs, or when do they actually start? So generally what will happen is that in the fall, sometimes fall and sort of early winter, you're gonna have to submit your applications, get them all done up. And then you'll sit for a couple of months. And so what is happening there, if you don't know, is what they're doing is it's going through a couple of different stages with the application process, right? So when you submit your application online, it seems like it's just sitting there and doing nothing. Well, what's ending up happening is that somebody will kind of tally up all these different applications, and they'll put it into kind of an Excel spreadsheet. So this would be the graduate program officer or someplace. They'll put this into an Excel spreadsheet, all the different people that have applied, and they'll also look at the different applications to make sure that all the requirements are there first. And they'll list the different, what program you went to, all that kind of stuff in an Excel spreadsheet. And then after a couple of weeks of doing this and processing it and putting it all together and making sense of it and making sure that you hit all the sort of check marks and with the application, then it will go to some sort of committee, and it will be a group of professors generally that are sitting around doing nothing, and just kidding. And they're going to look at the different applications and go through all those different applications it'll be on some sort of, they'll have this spreadsheet in front of them. It might not be a spreadsheet, it might be something else, right? But then they'll have the applications that are sitting there as well. And they will go through and they'll sort of try to make sense of, who's a good candidate and who's not. And once they do that, they'll go through and rank order the different candidates, and then they might end up having interviews with different people, so that there's a couple of more weeks that they have interviews with different people. Maybe it's a Skype interview. And years ago, when I started, you'd have to fly out and you'd go to the location. So for me, the school I went to was a couple of hours drive, so I ended up going and doing that. Took a day off of work. Don't tell anybody that I took a day off of work then to go do that, but it worked out positively for me. So I took a day off of work and then drove down and visited, the institution that I was currently at, or I did my PhD. And then after that, you wait. You just wait for a couple of probably another month where they're going through and deciding, who's the best person. Then they send out applications. So they'll send out sort of invite letters for the program, and it'll happen sometime in the spring-ish. So spring-ish being like, depending on the program and what you're doing, like March, April, May, June, sort of ish. June is getting late. Usually most places would want to know like March, April, May, what's happening, and they'll give you a deadline for a month or so to sort of choose on what you want to do, or it's a couple of weeks to a month, depending on, it'll say in the letter, it'll say, you've got until this particular time to get this done. And then you submit whether you want to do this, and it's usually pretty informal, particularly in graduate school, like a doctoral program. because it's only a couple of people, right? And so you don't have to do anything very sophisticated. It'll be it'll be a formal letter and all that kind of stuff, like an actual contract. But then you send it back, and it'll seem very informal to you when you do this. It truly will. You'll be like, well, really? It's not like undergrad where you have to go through like this sort of system and all this kind of stuff. And then you'll get signed up so you say yay or nay, hopefully yay. And then you'll go, and then in, I don't know, about August or so, they'll ask you mid-August, beginning of August to mid-August, depending on what school you go to, you'll have kind of like a week of, getting acquainted with the university. They'll go through different things and, talking about this and that with a different program. And then they might have some programs have like a boot camp where it'll be a 2-week boot camp where you'd go and get brushed up on statistics, for example, or something like that, where you'd take kind of like a primer course, depending on where you're from. I say primer, but I guess in the US they call it primer. This is the Canadianness is coming out in me sometimes, which is really British. A lot of the stuff we say is British. But anyways, so yeah, you'll do a little primer for a couple of weeks. And so if that's the case, if you have that, it'll start early August. If not, then it'll start like kind of mid-August-ish. And then school will start, and you'll be into the program, starting in anywhere between. So at my institution, it starts early. I think it starts early, and it'll be like, mid-August when the actual school semester starts. A lot of institutions, it's like September ish, depending on where you are. Some of them, it just varies on when it starts. But anyways, that's basically how it happens and what happens through it. And that's why the whole process works that way. It's totally rational. It might seem like you're freaking out. Just calm down. No, it's just part of the process, and things just take time. Really does. I've had experience enough with this kind of stuff, and just know people are actually doing things in the background. They're making sure that all the boxes are checked. And, there might be a day or two here where things are just sitting there and doing nothing. That's fine. You just want to make sure over the course of several weeks that things are getting done. And generally they are. And you'll get notifications once in a while. And usually, so what ends up happening is once all of the people have accepted that are accepted, then they'll send notifications to everybody and say, most places. Sometimes they don't, so don't be surprised if you don't hear anything back. But a lot of places you'll get a notification saying, we feel so bad about this, and maybe try again next year or something like that, right? So it'll be a notification. They'll say you didn't get into the program. And that's the way that it works. So hopefully that makes sense to you. And if it does, give me a thumbs up. I do appreciate it. Do subscribe to the YouTube channel, and take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.